Hello everyone, Cameroni here with an updated build guide for Ice Nova, my beloved. Are you here after playing POE2 and want to see what an Ice Mage is really all about? Does the thought of cursing your enemies and making them kill their friends on death excite you? Then have I got a build guide for you. Now I know what you're thinking, Cameroni. They killed Ice Nova with Frostbolts. It's bad. Why are you doing a build guide video? Well, you see, that's because my boy isn't so easy to kill. I spent many hours in grief after the patch notes. I had the funeral home scheduled, a grave plot picked out, and everything. But then I decided that Ice Nova is too young to die, and so I saved it. Also, I'm just so incredibly hyped there is finally a new PoE league that I simply do not care much that it's been nerfed. It's still good. I'm going to have a great time. I hope you will too. The meta for this is, or was, Hierophant because Archmage is overpowered. But really, if you're playing Archmage, then you're playing Lightning Nova of Lightning Bubbles, since you're doing mostly lightning damage. Kinda cringe. Some will argue it's better. Not me, but some. Still cringe. I've played many iterations of this build over many patches, including before it was called Ice Nova of Frostbolts. Yes, that's right. Old Ice Nova could be cast on Frostbolt before it had it in the name. In fact, the Ice Nova before Transfigured Gems was way better than Ice Nova of Frostbolts will be in this patch. This build got really popular in the last couple of leagues because of Archmage and mana stacking. Why? This build hits. A lot. Lots of hits. You throw out at least 4 Frostbolts, then you have an Ice Nova explode from each Frostbolt, and with Spell Echo, it'll explode from those Frostbolts again after a brief delay. And if you really want to get crazy, you can use Pledge of Hands for greater Spell Echo and get even more explosions. Sadly, the number of hits was cut in half with the latest patch, so instead of being incredibly overpowered, the skill is just slightly overpowered. Let's get into the mechanics here. Normally, Spell Echo is kind of lame, since it makes you hold still as you're casting a spell twice in rapid succession. But with Ice Nova of Frostbolt specifically, it will echo off of the giant bubble, and you're free to cast again. Thus, 2 casts for the price of 1. And since you're casting off 2 Frostbolts, moment of silence for my boy. It's 2 casts for the price of 1 times 2, so really it's 4 casts for the price of 1. Final answer. It used to be 8. Before Ice Nova Frostbolts, it was 6. I might just be a little bitter about it, but it is what it is. I still love the skill, and I have faith that GGG wouldn't entirely kill my beloved ice skills. In the true endgame of this build, you don't even really need the Frostbolts. You can just sprint around like a madman, letting off Vaal Ice Novas that make each mob hit generate another Vaal Ice Nova that repeats for screens of enemies, all while Profane Bloom and or Herald of Ice explosions also blow them up. Vaal Ice Nova is easily the coolest skill in the game. That's the endgame I'm looking forward to, and Ice Nova of Frostbolts is just the engine that will get me there. There will be another build guide, though. And here's a quick snapshot of my projected endgame stats before I blow thousands of divines on a perfect reflected amulet. This build guide, though, is for the Leaguestarter. Other key mechanics to note. In the POB, you want at least twice as much mana recovery as you do mana cost per second on Ice Nova Frostbolts. Why is that? Because POB doesn't calculate the cast rate correctly because Spell Echo echoes off of the Frostbolt, freeing you up for the next cast. Thus, why you need double the mana cost, because you're casting twice as fast as Pop thinks you are. Unless, of course, this gets fixed in the next patch. To calculate damage, turn the Ice Nova damage instances to 4 now instead of 8. Pretty painful change. Curse on Hit plus Profane Bloom is a game changer on a low budget. I'd highly recommend Curse on Hit ASAP just before or after the 4th lab. It will carry you extremely far in maps. You can also use a cheap Mark of Submission Ring if you need to, so long as you have enough attributes and resistances elsewhere. There are 2 big weaknesses for this build. Big hits, big weakness for pretty much every build, and damage over time, which is also a big weakness for most builds. And especially damage over time since it stops your energy shield recharge, which is one of our main defensive layers. And if you're using the Blue Maven belt, you don't recoup energy shields from damage over time. We counter this a bit with some ES Leech and some regen, but it is something to keep in mind. Moving on to other ways to build this, I have gone through so many iterations of this build and there are oodles of ways to make it good. I won't go into detail on each one of these, I'll just go over them briefly. If you want details, I'm sure I've spoken about them at some point, or you can use Google. I'll keep this video focused on how I'm going to build it this league. But quickly, options. You have Feral's Fur, plus Aspect of the Cat, plus Lestoration linked to whatever it's on, plus Badge of the Brotherhood. This will get you full uptime of Frenzy and power charges. You just need to be careful of things that steal your power charges, or uniques like Malachi's Loop or Toolfall, or the Maven Belt or Inner Conviction Keystone that will eat your charges. We also have Frenzy Relicash Boots plus Badge of the Brotherhood plus Power Charge Generation. This will keep you at maximum Frenzy charges, and then you just generate Power Charges until you're at the max. That means that you can't use Malachi's Loop or Toolfall or anything else that eats your Power Charges. And you'll also need to generate them the normal way, so your damage will need to ramp. It's still pretty quick, especially if you're using Power Charge on crit. Power Charge Relicash Boots. You can use Malachi's Loop, Inner Conviction, and Toolfall, but you lose the sick Frenzy Charges. This is what we'll be doing, and hopefully it'll be fairly cheap this league, not the 33 Divines that the Relicash Boots have been for the past few leagues. You could also, you know, not charge stack at all, just stack spell levels, use the Exarch stick, and scale the normal way. Or use Pledge of Hands, Forget or Spell Echo, and scale the normal way, or do some charge stacking, or mix, really. The possibilities are endless. Yeah. Nerfs to the build this league. Damaging hits are cut in half. You are only hitting 4 times per cast instead of 8. We lose Endurance charges and Frenzy charges. You can get Endurance and or Frenzy charges from a Merc, possibly. We'll see. The AoE is reduced, whether it's cast on Frostbolt or not, which is really annoying. I'm going to have to swap out the gem depending on what content I want to do in the end game, but that's fine. Archmage got nerfed, but I don't care about that. And really significant nerfs all the way around. And I'm sure I'll still find a way to break the game with Ice Nova. I always find a way. Buffs to the build this league. Righteous Fire of Arcane Devotion. You have 25% more cast speed on it. Unfortunately, to take advantage of this, we lose CI. So chaos damage becomes an issue. And we have to juggle regen and some other stuff. But 25% more cast speed is crazy, and that almost makes up for the lack of Frenzy charges. You also have Arcane Surge, which got buffed, and it now provides 10% more spell damage, and Spell Echo, which also got buffed, which provides 10% more spell damage. So instead of our damage being cut completely in half, it's only cut by about a third, which is still pretty good. And also, move speed is back on the boots. Huge quality of life. Then we have Mercenaries, we got Tattoos, we got Rune thingies that we still need to look into. All sorts of buffs and potential buffs. What this build is good for, or who this build is for. This is an all-rounder build. It'll get you at least 2 of the 4 Void Stones on a solo self-found budget, and all 4 with some investment. I'd love to tell you how much, but things have changed so much that I have no idea what the budget will be. I'm hoping it'll be pretty low because it got nerfed and nobody will want to play it anymore. Shh, keep it a secret. I have 2 planned routes depending on prices for items, a few not fully fleshed out routes as backup, and I can make an educated guess that one of these routes will cost somewhere between 5 and 10 Divines to get all 4 Void Stones and to complete the Atlas. It'll also get you to a spot where you can farm tier 16s and possibly get you into tier 17s if you get lucky on your tier 17 map rolls, or if you get lucky with your gear. This build really excels once you dump 30 to 50 Divines in it, just like most builds. And you can start doing the later waves of Simulacrum. You can kill Shaper and Elder over and over again. You can do Blight Ravaged maps. You can do 100% Deli maps. You can do tier 17 maps, Invitation farming. Blow up hordes of enemies. Do whatever content you want. And then once you get to the true end game of the build, when you have Power Charge Rings, you have Mage Blood or Headhunter or however you want to do it, then the game gets incredibly easy and incredibly fun as you blow up all of your enemies on repeat. This is a great build for indecisive people like me who can't focus on a single farm for more than a few hours at a time, and this build truly excels in content with large pack size. All that said, I don't stream on Twitch. I don't know a whole lot about streaming or recording in general. I iterate these build videos and hope that they get better each time. If you have questions about the build, it's a bit harder to get a hold of me or see what I'm doing. I'll post daily updates for the first few days of the league, and then periodic updates, but that's all you'll have to go off of. You can always ask questions in the comments, and I'm pretty quick to respond. Or you can message me in-game. Perhaps one day I'll stream, but today is not that day. On to leveling, or league starting. This is a pretty standard league start for a witch. You kill the dude with a sword, you get the bouncy lava ball, you throw it through some firewalls to light the lava on fire, and blast through Act 1 while selling every rare item you can't use so that you can buy the gems that you need. The path of building has detailed notes, as well as a regex for searching in town for stuff from vendors. Once you arrive at the Cavern of Wrath, no, that's not a euphemism, you can go back to town and pick up Ice Nova. It's worse than the bouncy lava ball, so you can continue to use that if you want to, but this guide is about Ice Nova, so it uses Ice Nova. In Act 2, we'll try to get a cheeky Vaal Cold Snap from the altar in the Vaal Temple. It's not the end of the world if you don't get it. It's very useful for easy frenzy charge generation through the rest of the campaign and early maps, though. Some key notes while going through the acts. Save a Lyra. Your resistances will thank you. Your first 4 links are both going to be 4 blue. Around Act 8, start gambling for or looking for armor and ES gear and get your resistances ready for Katava 2 Electric Boogaloo, where you get another minus 30% to all resistances. So you get your resistances to at least 105% before this point. Use your crafting bench in your hideout. You're welcome. PSA. Don't be a fool like me and link support gems to Herald of Ice. Your mana reservation will thank you. Try to get Ice Nova or Frost Bolts in the first 2 labs. Chances are you won't get it. If you get lucky, awesome. Otherwise, it's not the end of the world. If you can also, look for another gem that you could sell and trade for Ice Nova, Frost Bolts. The Leaguestart version of this build takes into account completing the entire campaign without Ice Nova or Frost Bolts, should you wish to do so. You can also easily farm it starting with the 3rd lab in Act 8, and that's where I recommend you buckle up and get serious about getting it. If you're lucky, you'll get it on the first try, or something that you can sell and trade for it. Otherwise, it might take a few runs. But it shouldn't take too much time overall, and there are a lot of gems that sell well early in the league, so even if you don't get it, you could still get some good stuff to get some investment and get some other items that you need. I've included items, a passive tree, config, and skills in the POB for the current build. This is what I tested on through the campaign and into late maps. Getting and crafting gear like this will take some currency or know-how on how to craft it. Quick tutorial for Path of Building. You see down here on the passive tree, there's all these available options in this drop-down list for different checkpoints of the build or different versions of the build. Same thing is here in this drop-down for the skills. Same in the drop-down for items. And same in the configuration. There's also notes here. Don't look at these yet. They're not done. And everything, pretty much everything that you need will be in the Path of Building. The rest of this video will be me talking while some showcases play in the background. For early maps, this build cruises right out of the campaign and into maps without many adjustments needed, so long as you start prepping for around Act 8, like I talked about previously. A passive tree and example items are in the Path of Building. I would choose an early Atlas tree that focuses on map drops and Kirax so that you can unlock the whole thing without needing to trade much for maps, but you can do whatever you want. Jung Roan usually has a good Leaguestart Atlas tree that I follow. Into late maps, this is where the build starts struggling a bit, as many Leaguestarters do, if you have been just cruising and not looking for or saving up for upgrades. If you find yourself in this situation, it's a perfectly valid strategy to farm the lab, farm yellow maps, farm some easy blighted maps, whatever else you want to do to get the upgrades that you need. On the late maps version of this build, I've tested against Eater, Exarch, Maven, Elder, Shaper, and Uber Elder. The only one I wasn't able to kill was Uber Elder, and that's probably because I'm bad at the video game. I didn't test against Cyrus because I hate that boss, and I will never willingly fight Cyrus. I was able to do up to Wave 10 Simulacrum and moderately juicy Tier 16 maps. This version of the build should get you at least two of the 4 Void Stones like I talked about previously. If you know Maven mechanics, you can also do Maven. If you are an Uber Elder Beast, you can probably get that too. I'm not, so I'll probably pay for a carry on that one like a reasonable lad. Nasty map modifiers to look out for. Stealing charges. This only applies if you don't have the boots. Elemental Reflect. You can do this if you change the Pantheon to less reflect and allocate a point to elemental mastery on your passive tree, which will get you over 100% reduced elemental reflected damage taken. Reduced aura effect, it's doable, it's a pain, as always for most builds. Kills a lot of your armor. Later on it'll kill your resistances on the Aegis version of the build. Less armor. This is a really rough one if you're using the Aegis version of the build. I'm sure there's some other ones. I can't think of them off the top of my head. The CI version of the build. This will be incredibly tanky while having okay DPS. It's a different route than what I don't normally go, since I'm usually all in on the tanky enough train and giga boost my AoE and DPS. But I wanted to do something different this time, and something that doesn't rely on uniques that have gotten incredibly expensive over the last 2 leagues. This is my fallback plan if Rallikash boots are still extremely expensive for some reason. Defenses for the CI version. You have 90% all resistances, block and spell block cap with glancing blows, insane ES recovery from Aegis every time you get hit, decent ES leech, nothing compared to Trickster, but it's alright. That's CI, so you're immune to chaos damage. It has 90% fizz reduction, it's crit immune, and it's elemental ailment immune. It is weak to damage over time and consistent big hits, because the recovery of the or the regeneration is not very good on that version of the build. So if you're doing boss fights or places, or you're in places that have a lot of damage over time, it's going to struggle there. Everything else, it's a beast. The low life version of the build, I was going to go the tanky Aegis route until the patch notes hit, and now I'm not doing that, since the damage for that version is a little more than half of what it was going to be. Instead, I'll be doing this low life version. And on to the low life version. I was going to throw in Righteous Fire of Arcane Devotion, but after a few hours of testing and playing around, I just couldn't get it in a spot that I liked. There is a possible world where I use Utula's Hunger and stack a bit of life and then reserve half of it and use Petrified Blood. I've done that in the past, but then I lose armor and some auras and spell block, and the defenses are a bit too weak for my taste. Same with using Chevrons. Coruscating Elixir is just really annoying to try and use. I tried it. I didn't like it. I won't put out a guide for it, but it is a possibility if you want to go that route. So the downsides for these just aren't working for me on a budget. These are not routes I'm going to flesh out for 3.26 unless I need to get more damage in my build early on. Instead, we're just going to be sad about all of the missing frenzy charges and our number of damaging hits being cut in half on top of that, and go for better quality of life with Chaos Inoculation. It reduces our damage quite a bit, but I think it'll still be a respectable amount, especially for how tanky we'll be. Once I get a Timeless Jewel and a couple of the uniques required for this one, we sit around a projected 10 million DPS, which I think is good enough for how cheap this will hopefully be. So this version is no longer low life. I really should change the name, but I've been working on this for so many hours I can't be bothered to change anything anymore. This build will require the Power Charge Relicash boots, and then it uses the Blue Maven Belt, Tool Fall, Malachi's Loop, and the Inner Conviction Keystone from a Timeless Jewel to scale our damage. We'll also take all of these spell block nodes to get 80% spell block, stack as much armor as we can on our gear to get as close to 90% physical reduction as we can, and then we'll eventually go to 90% all res as well. We probably will need Mage Blood for that, as well as ailment immunity. We also have 130% elemental damage taken recouped as energy shield over 4 seconds, so our survivability and recovery should be pretty decent. It's not ailment immune. It starts out with freeze, chill, and shock immunity, and we call that good enough. Later on, we might swap our helm for a +1 power charge will clash, so we can either free up some passive points or free up some reservation. We'll see what happens. It also can use a cheeky frost shield for bosses, or in simulacrum or blight ravaged maps to apply a bone chill to mobs in the shield and make us much tankier against mobs that are outside of the shield. It also gives us some crit and whatnot, can be useful in certain situations. In conclusion, Ice Nova Frostbolts got hit with a nerf hammer pretty hard this league. I think it'll still be good enough. We'll just need to build it a bit different. I know I'm going to have a good time. I hope you have a good time. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments below. Send me a message in-game. It's @Cameroni. I know, probably didn't see that coming. Thanks for watching. See you next time.